Hi, I just want to provide a warning that a portion of tonight's conversation deals with rape, which may be upsetting to you. Also, I want to add that after Venerable left the conversation, Debbie, the guest, and I had a chance to rehash this issue and discuss it. So I've included that in the episode recording for tonight. Thank you. And I'm glad that you were able to join us for Casual Buddhism. Hello and welcome to Casual Buddhism. I'm your host, Cindy Rasicot, author of Finding Venerable Mother and devoted follower of Venerable Dhammananda Pikani, who is the first fully ordained Theravada nun in Thailand. Casual Buddhism is a very unique program because it involves a spontaneous conversation. Each week we invite a guest to come on and ask Venerable Dhammananda a question. And each week the conversation is totally different based on what the person wants to ask. Tonight we have a wonderful guest. She's a friend and a fellow, I guess I should say a female author, Deborah Thomas, and she is an award-winning author of the book Lose. And she's going to begin by asking her question.
Well, first of all, Cindy, thank you for having me. And thank you, Venerable Dhammananda, for giving me this opportunity to speak with you directly. It's quite an honor. I'd like to preface my question with the reason why I'm asking it. Over the years, many years, I have tried to find meaning by studying different world religions, as you noticed in my background. But I have always found the most comfort in Buddhism because it's more focused on how to live in this world, not some elusive otherworldly place, but how to live fully here, in the here and now, and how to maintain kindness and compassion for everyone and everything. I love nature, animals, trees, and I just love the concept of compassion for everything. So I try to live by this every day. So every morning I meditate a little, I reflect, and I set a positive intention of kindness and compassion. And then I begin my day. And usually I come across some kind of ugliness, whether it's in the news or in someone that I come across that day. It might involve racial or ethnic bias or just plain insensitivity or ignorance. And then my Italian temper, my negative thoughts start rising, and I become angry, and I lose that compassionate, kind Debbie that I was earlier.
That intention you started out.
Right. So two things. I usually step back, and there are two things that I have read or heard that moved me. One was something the Dalai Lama said, that these difficult situations give us an opportunity to evolve our heart and practice true compassion and tolerance. But then you said something a month or two ago that works really well for me. You said to fight the ignorance, not the individual person. And that helped me stop thinking of the person and think about the issue. So I wondered if you could speak a little bit more on that, fighting the ignorance, not the individual, and how can I maintain that compassionate heart when I'm confronted with someone who is not compassionate?
Yes, that's two questions. You know, just in fact, this is a session of really, Cindy, not so much about asking questions, but I think it's a sharing. It's a sharing of spiritual path, you know, how both of us, both Deborah and myself, how we walk towards our spiritual path. The first question, you know, when I started my work on nature conservation, slowly I realized that the issue of a man raping a woman and a man who is cutting down the trees actually is the same kind of mentality.
Right.
Yes, you know, taking as his own. You know, as a father, I was in the Philippines, a father raped his own daughter, and he didn't feel that he was doing anything wrong because she belongs to him. Why would he allow her for someone else, for another man, this son-in-law to be? How could he allow another man to have her? So it is his right as a father to have sex with his daughter. You know, that mentality of ownership is so strong, both in the case of raping a girl, raping his own daughter, or a man exploiting nature by cutting down trees. Thinking all the time that I own it, I am the one who has the right to do it. You know, so this is the major issue. We have to really go beyond individual, because it is the structure that allows it, the mental structure that they will form and allow them to do what they do. Mm-hmm. You see, so right. I always say that a man who raped a girl is someone we need to have compassion more than the girl who is being raped.
Wow.
You know, because in Buddhism, you know, he is making a new karma and he has to pay off the debt, so to say. Whereas the girl, in this case, I look at it in a very simplistic way, maybe too simplistic. The girl who is being raped is spending out her bad karma. Whereas that man who is raping her is actually starting a new karma. So he has to go a long way, you know, to pay off the debts, so to say. So this is what, when I was working on this nature conservation, I came up with this idea, with this kind of understanding. You know, you have to remove yourself one step further back in order to see the big picture. And the second part of your question is about, you know, when we are in this situation, how are we going to do? Take a step back. Take a step back. If you are in that, you know, I do the same thing, Debra, you know, when some news come, you know, reading this newspaper, oh, how could he do such a thing, you know, and you get so, your heart is down. Our balance is really off the balance, so to say. Take a step back. Take a step back to realize that he or she or the person who is actually committing this ugly sin is also victim. He or she is also victim to this, the system, right. The mental system of thinking in this way. Right. You know, then that forgiveness comes immediately. Forgiveness to that particular person comes immediately, because he or she is also trapped in this way of thinking. In this way of thinking, it is not individual.
Right.
Yeah, it helps. It helps me a lot. You know, otherwise I would get so upset. Maybe it continues for hours.
But that would be so hard to see. The example you gave that's so extreme, to see that person as a victim. I mean, and yet I'm sure, I mean, I know what led them to that, what beliefs were behind it. You know, look at the bigger picture, look at the ignorance behind it.
Yes.
But that would be very difficult. It would take a strong person to do that.
Yeah, so this happened at the time you said in the beginning, you know, when you start your day out, it right. comes at this time of contemplation. This contemplative moment is the time that you gathered around yourself, this positive energy for you to be able to see through the difficulties, the problems as it happened. You know, in our normal day-to-day level of mind, you cannot see. You have to really go back a little bit in that contemplative moment. Then you can be. Why in that contemplative moment? Because in that contemplative moment, we let go of self, of myself, you know, to be able to see the higher truth, so to say.
Right.
So your practice in the morning is recommended. I do the same thing. As soon as I finish my breakfast, I always have that quiet moment. I need to light the candle. You know, it's just my rituals to actually help me to focus. Light the candle, and then I light that that Indian incense, the cone-shaped incense, and then with the smell, I'm being reminded to be here and now, and then to be more focused. And then I would pay respect to the Buddha, and also to realize that not the Buddha, the person, but Buddhahood. Or one step higher than the Buddha, the person, to Buddhahood. And to really dedicate myself, what I do today, it is an offering. It is an offering to this greater truth. And may I also, in this path, also realize the truth. So that's my how to say, my daily dedication in the morning. And it does give strength. It does give strength to ourselves in order to continue for the day. And of course, during the day, there will be so many bumps. so many bumps to really that you are being, you lost of your balance, but then you come back, you can come back quicker than otherwise.
And maybe certainly learn from it and be aware of it, recognize that I think it's happening.
Yes.
To step back and say, wow, I probably shouldn't have said that or done that. Or maybe even half of it is just what I'm thinking in my mind. I may not express some of the anger and maybe expect too much of myself. And I guess we're only human. So we're going to have those emotions come up. And but you're right, to think about it, think on it later or the next morning. Yeah.
Yes. And Deborah, this forgiveness, this forgiveness, don't forget to forgive yourself also.
Right.
Be able to forgive yourself also.
But I think within the social context of the system, there's also room for the voice that speaks out against the discrimination or the oppression towards women. And I take, Venerable, you as a primary example. Although you did not decide to ordain for reasons that had to do with the system, your commitment is to the Buddha and your faith in the Buddha. Yet didn't you feel in voicing your position that you might be making a statement also?
But that's not my primary concern. It is not my primary concern, but nevertheless, yes, I stand up for this voice, to be the true daughter of the Buddha, to continue what the Buddha intended. The Buddha intended to set this fourfold Buddhist communities, and one is missing. And I take it as my responsibility to pay respect to the Buddha, to bring it back to society.
Mm-hmm.
And you did open the door, I assume, to other women, to show other women you can do this.
Yes.
Right.
That's very important also, Debbie, because many of them have been thinking before, maybe before me, but none of them had guts to step out,
right.
To step out of the comfort zone. People say, they say that normal people have about 15% of that crazy blood in you, I don't know whether this is true in your country or not, but that's what we heard in our country. But I think I have more than 15% of this.
Right. And Deborah, how's this sitting with you, this conversation? I'm just curious.
Well, I guess it makes me realize that, of course, I can't expect to always feel the right thing or do the right thing. And that just being aware and as you say, maybe the next morning or maybe that evening, sit back and reflect on it and think about that person or that issue, whatever it is that I heard, and try to understand why they felt that way and what can we do to try to change or educate if possible. Of course, in many cases, that there's just not an open door there, at least right now, but we can keep trying and we can keep lighting a candle, as you say, in the best way we can.
Well, this seems like a good place to close the conversation. It's been a wonderful conversation, and thank you both for this beautiful exchange.
Deborah, thank you so much for lighting the day for me. It's our morning time, Deborah.
Oh,
In
goodness.
Thailand, it's our morning time.
Well,
So
I hope you've had your morning incense and lit your candle and did.
I did. And now you light my another candle for me.
Oh, this has been a
Wonderful.
pleasure. Thank you so much. Such an honor. Thank you, Cindy.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yes, thank you. And we'll be back next week.
Yes.
How did you feel when she said she had more compassion for the man than the girl that was raped?
Well, I have to say, at first, I think I would have said the same compassion. And then I realized what she was talking about with karma, that in the Buddhist religion, she believes that he has to pay the price for what he's done, his karma, and whereas the daughter will have been farther ahead in having suffered. And it reminded me of Christianity, exactly what we would say in the Christian religion, that the father is going to burn in hell, and that the daughter, having suffered so horribly here, will immediately go to heaven. And so we should have compassion for him burning in hell, because of his own ignorance, what his society or whatever, however he was brought up to believe that he owned this girl and that he had the right to do this, and that, he's a victim. But it's karma and Christianity, very similar. You're going to have to pay the price somehow, and we should feel compassion for both.
Thank you for giving me that explanation, and I really appreciate it.